More tough news for the real estate industry as the National Association of Realtors gets slapped back to the Stone Age with a lawsuit, and it's a big one. Hey, we're going to talk about that today. We're also going to talk about a $1.5 million, basically meth lab home here, of course, in California, where else, and more. So we're going to tie that in. Also, the story about the realtors, we're going to tie that lawsuit in with home prices and the housing bubble. I haven't heard anyone else on the internet talking about this. Please give us a like to get this video going, to get it a little bit of traction, and let's go ahead and get into it right now. U.S. jury finds realtors liable for inflating commissions, awards $1.78 billion, that's billion with a B, $1 billion in damages. Now, let me give you the real short version of this first, for those of you just tuning in to find out what happened, and then that's all you want to know. The short version is realtors basically have a stranglehold on the industry, with home sellers almost being forced, basically being forced to list their homes and pay a set commission, what they're calling a non-negotiable commission. Of course, National Association of Realtors is saying that they're saying that the commission was negotiable, but that's not the way home sellers felt. And basically, if you don't list your home through this National Association of Realtors, good luck anyone finding it, because you're not going to get on the MLS. The buyers out there and buyers agents both likely would not be able to even find the home. So basically, it was kind of a hostage situation where home sellers were forced to do this. Now, what happens when home sellers know they have to pay this inflated commission? In fact, they could pay about 6% because they have to pay the buyers and the sellers commission, totaling 6%. So when you have a big 6% chunk coming out of the home sale, as a home seller, you're likely going to price the home higher to try to make up for that pretty big hit that you're going to be taking on paying that commission. So that's just another small part of, I think, what is the housing bubble, what I call the housing bubble. And I think a lot of you out there would call this another housing bubble. So this could actually be another negative on home prices. So if commissions come down, then sellers won't have to be so greedy on their asking price, because sometimes sellers, if they don't have much equity, they just can't afford a 6% commission. So they're going to inflate their price to try to get more out of the home. Now, this lawsuit included some different brokerages, including the Warren Buffett-owned Berkshire Hathaway and other companies here. Now, this was a big blow. Of course, real estate agents, I don't think they're going to say this, because real estate agents want the higher commissions, or just commissions in general. But a lot of times as a home buyer, you don't need a real estate agent. It may have some benefits and it may make things easier, especially pre-internet, back in the 1980s when you couldn't just look up the home that you wanted online. Now with these sites like Redfin, Realtor.com, Zillow, Trulia, you can go in and just find your home by doing a search. And there's not much out there typically that you can't find that some agent's going to have access to that you don't. Again, because anyone wanting to get their home listed and seen, it's going to be on the MLS and run across most or all of these real estate websites that I just mentioned here. Now, there are a lot of legal things involved that realtors and professional real estate agents can really help, because it's kind of a red tape type of thing. Selling home, buying homes, a lot of paperwork involved. I mean, sometimes the stack is pretty big. So it's not a simple thing for someone to just buy and sell a home on their own. But I think we could all agree that almost a mandatory commission, and the real estate agents have to pay a fee to be in the National Association of Realtors. So, of course, the National Association of Realtors, they want to have the commission stay where it's at. They don't want it to be negotiable, or they don't want you to know it's negotiable. Now, this lawsuit and guilty verdict included Berkshire Hathaway-owned Home Services of America and 2 subsidiaries, as well as the realtor Keller Williams. And a spokesperson out of the National Association of Realtors says they are going to appeal this decision. They're saying they're not conspiring to keep commissions artificially high. And shares of these real estate services companies, including online brokerages, Zillow, fell pretty big. Some of them actually 7% drop in Zillow after this news of this verdict came out. Here's what I think about it. I think there should be no minimum. If you can get an agent to sell your home or help you buy a home for a fraction of 1%, let's say a 0.5%, then that should be the agent that gets the job, that gets the contract. But offering such a low commission is looked at as kind of a slap in the face to these real estate agents because they're so used to getting their 3%. And if you're the seller agent and the buyer agent both, if you're listing a home as a real estate agent and you also find your own buyer, some cases you're going to get 6%. Imagine a 6% commission on what's here in California, $1 million home. You're talking $60,000 for one transaction, right? If you get both commissions, if you get 3% as the seller's agent and you find the buyer, $60,000 in one transaction, you're making more than many people make all year just in one transaction. To me, it seems excessive. And even if it was only 3%, let's say $1 million home, which is typical here in California, $30,000 for one transaction, pretty crazy that people can make that much money in such a short amount of time. And a lot of times it's not that much work. Now, the Warren Buffett affiliated Berkshire Hathaway, their portion of this could be up to $5.35 billion of this lawsuit. So what do you think about this? Do you agree with me that these commissions should be negotiable and they should be a lot less? Because then you'll have competition amongst different agents and you won't be held hostage to the National Association of Realtors and maybe be able to list your home on the MLS without having to be pressured into paying such a high commission. And if you don't have to pay such a high commission as a home seller, wouldn't you be more likely to price your home a little bit lower, knowing you're not going to have to pay that $30,000, maybe $60,000, maybe even more commission on a home that's $2-3 million? Can you imagine those commissions? All right, now let's transition a little bit here, still on the topic of real estate and the housing bubble. California home prices are outrageous. Take a look at this. A California house is listed for $1.55 million that used to have a meth lab in it. And basically, it's still contaminated from what it was used for as the lab there for cooking up the products. And here's a shot of the home right here. And as you can see, it's got a couple solar panels. It's all boarded up. I guess the garage is where the lab was located at. $1.55 million up in the Bay Area of California. Who would be crazy enough to pay that? Well, I guess if you could afford a cleanup crew and decontamination crew, it might be something that somebody's going to buy. But I wouldn't want to live in it personally, even if a decontamination crew went in there. So maybe it'll be a home flipper that buys it and sells it. And that's part of the red tape that we were talking about earlier with selling a home. There's got to be some disclosures to the potential buyers of this home of what it used to be used for, even if it is cleaned up and no longer considered contaminated. But to anyone out there that still thinks or argues that we're not in a housing bubble, a meth infested home, basically $1.5 million still, even as prices have come down a good chunk, they've come down in the Bay Area. In fact, if we go over to Wolf Street here, we can see the top 10 metros or the biggest areas that had some pretty big price decreases. San Francisco Bay Area down 11.2% below their peaks in 2022. We have Seattle down 10%, Vegas down 6%, Phoenix down 6%, Portland down 4.6%, Denver down 4.3%, Dallas down 4%, San Diego down 2%, LA down 1.3%, Tampa, Florida down 0.4%. So even after the price dropped, still $1.5 million for a home that was used as a meth lab. And this MSN article goes on to say Keller Williams Realty, there's Keller Williams again, they were involved in that lawsuit, listing the home in San Jose, notes that the home is considered contaminated, still contains an inactive lab. A spokesperson for Santa Clara County's health department said in a statement that nobody can enter the home until it is decontaminated. I'm starting to second guess the real estate agents commission. Maybe they do deserve 3% going into homes like this. I've actually heard a few sad stories about real estate agents being lured to homes and somebody shows up that's actually not wanting to buy the home. They had other intentions. I'll just leave it at that. It could be a dangerous job. So not to minimize, what real estate agents do. Some of them work very hard. Some of them work hard and end up not getting any commission because it's a very competitive market. And I know some real estate agents, and it is it's been described to me as a kind of a cutthroat type of industry where you have all these agents competing for uh, the buyers and the sellers both. It could be a very stressful industry also, but also very lucrative when you look at how high home prices are now and when you get a percentage of that high home price and commission. All right, people, we're going to wrap this up. What do you think about today's stories? And 2 reports ago, we reported here that the housing bubble, I think, went bust. We have a 12% drop now year over year in the median home price. That's when you look at the entire nation. And things are going to be accelerating from here. And this could be another pin to make this bubble pop, maybe even faster. What do you think about all this? Let me know down in the comments, please. Please also hit that subscribe button right down here where my finger is pointing. You can really help out this channel. And thank you very much for being here, everybody. Keep stacking. Bye for now. See you soon. Peace.